Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome to Object Catchup, the series where we discuss object show episodes right after watching them, whether they are new or old, famous or unknown. It doesn't matter, we will get to it all. Now, today is definitely a surprising day. It is not what I was expecting to cover at all. However, not necessarily out of the blue, because this was like sort of I teased on Twitter and stuff, but Animatic Battle 4A released last night, or well, this morning actually. And I mean, of course, this takes priority. I was originally planning to have a whole different set of things to cover today, but we just have to, like, it's a special occasion and it is due for a special Animatic Battle for a release. Animatic Battle, it's one of the most popular object shows to not be II or BFDI. It's one of the ones that is a contender, right? Because it just ended up getting so popular. It got so many views, you know? And since it doesn't have that many episodes, that means that overall its average views is pretty much almost higher than I think any other object show, like as far as average views goes. With any object show in multiple episodes, because I think maybe Moss 1 also had a lot of views, but even then I don't think it quite matched it. So absolutely Animated Battle contender for the third biggest object show, and I haven't watched it. So this is absolutely the occasion to do the special, to watch it, because look, it's been years since an Animatic Battle episode released, so I'm, I guess, very lucky to be in a position where I'm doing all the catch up and an Animatic Battle episode released. So yeah, we're just gonna absolutely need to take a look at it. Animatic Battle is created by the one and only Gag of Green YouTuber with now 175,000 subscribers. We will start off by watching Animatic Battle 1, which is also going to be one of the longest episode of Animatic Battle. We're going to take a look at a big 41-minute of an episode. So, alright, then we are not playing about. I will watch this video and then I will come back and I will give my whole opinion on it from start to finish. Let's go. Okay, hello. So, I have just watched the first episode of Animatic Battle. Now, this one is going to be very complicated. Episode 1s are always some of the toughest to talk about, especially when it's a gigantic, long episode 1 like this. So, let's first off talk about the vibes of the show. So we're doing sort of that BFB vibe. Um, it's not BFB style, but a BFB vibe. We've got sort of a lot of characters forming teams of 8, right? Solving challenges in different wacky ideas with a host that's kind of crazy, can't really be reasoned with, will do murdering and whatever, and the challenges, as nonsensical or sensical as they might be, end up being pure chaos and everything, right? So that is sort of the vibe that we're going here. There is a lot of gags, a lot of them are funny, I can't even lie. It is the type of humor that is like, I kind of enjoy it, because like, while there is a decent little bit of like, I guess they're screeching sometimes, Animatic does tend to do that here and there. The like average of it, the crux of it, usually the jokes, they're pretty solid, like they don't really rely on like this like loud noises. It's not, even though there is the warning at the beginning, it doesn't really rely on the loud noises that often. It just ends up being pretty chill, and it's like good stuff. And Animatic themselves is very interesting. But before we do that, let's talk about the characters, because there's a lot of characters here to see, to be honest. So we gotta talk about it. Actually, no. First, I'm gonna say one thing: great subtitles. The captioning on this episode was done excellently. Absolutely, they're the type of caption that they're fancy, because they're using the fancy new YouTube maker of a caption. So it's not only looks fancy, but it's also just well made, and it's actually useful to the content, especially with don't because like you see the caption properly explain, I guess, somewhat some of the things that's going on, rather than just directly transcribing everything. So you can see don't agrees when don't makes random noises, right? So in general, it's just it's a really nice thing. The captions helping out the content here in episode 1, which is very good. It is exactly what we want, and I hope that this stuff continues into episode 2 and 3. I know that the captions sometimes are done by somebody else after, but I hope that at least 2 and 3 have it. If 4A ends up not having it, that's fair enough. It's a new episode and all that jazz, but I really hope that for a show like this, being capable of having this type of caption with color matching and everything, it's just very good. So let's start off here the episode with there is tea and landscape, which are relatively together. They're just two pretty chill fellas. There's not too much to really say about them. Landscape, a lot of people tend to look at the landscape and admire. It's a pretty good landscape. They don't seem to necessarily move around on their own that much. They seem to more be a chill character, which combines pretty well with T, who just kind of sits there, I guess, meditates in a way, relaxes. So that's a duo of relatively relaxed characters that we're going to be able to see. And then the next character to appear is Juicebox. Juicebox is relatively fun. I like Juicebox. Juicebox has some good jokes, especially with the fact that Juicebox has like roughly a 3D model as well, in the way that they just turn. And a lot of jokes. It has made some good gags. So I like Apple Juice. I see what we're doing here with Apple Juice. I like it. The next character to show up is oh yeah, this. Oh, wait, what are you called? You're like the popcorn fella, I think, right? So they made. So they're like a music type fella, you know. They're like a music fella. They make music. They listen to music. They're sort of cool vibes. They're not like cool arrogant. They're just sort of cool, as in they think they're cool, right? But it's not like cool arrogant, like I'm cooler than you. It's just the cool variant of I'm cool. You know, it's not necessarily being like, oh, I am just better than the competition. It's just saying, I think I'm cool. Which is a little bit of a shade, because a lot of the time when we see cool characters, it's always like, oh, yeah, the other ones have to not be cool, right? To that mindset. It's like, for example, like old Snowball and BFDI, even though it's not like a cool character, it's a tough character, but like, you know, it's sort of, oh, yeah, I'm tough, so nobody else is tough, you know, everybody else sucks. But they're just relatively, like, cool type character who shares that coolness. But the next first character that shows up is the little head. I don't even know that. It's like a bad haircut head. They speak in like some weird noise, to be honest. So there's not too much to say about them. They didn't do much in this episode, and I mean, it's a type of character that is a little weird. There's so much artifacting on them. It's like they've been cropped badly by AI. But like, it's honestly that character does give me worries. The thing about having too many characters that are glitchy is that we do already have a host that is glitchy. So sometimes it can feel a little bit odd to have that as a thing. So I'm not too sure I'm too convinced by that. However, look, maybe this fella is going to be coming in. I don't know even what their name is, to be honest, but we'll see. We'll see. Then Mini Disky. Mini Disky's interesting. They end up playing the tunes. Their name does start with M. They are relatively vibing to the music, so we see the duo there with the popcorn fella and the mini disky. They're sort of colliding. They don't really do much other than this opening scene, mini disky. However, I am relatively happy with them. They have a good design, good everything. They're doing pretty good. So I'm interested in that. But the next character to show up is I don't even know. I think it's Broken Ornament in one scene. I really like Broken Ornament's design. The fact that we have a permanent closed eye here for here, Broken Ornament, that is an excellent little design feature. It's one of the characters that has it. The design of the characters in the show are actually really good. I can't even lie. There's a few that are entirely jokes, but the designs on average are great. I can't even lie. Like that Broken Ornament, in my opinion, one of the top tier. It's that type of character that you can do a lot with them. As far as personality wise, that Broken Ornament, it was relatively base plate type character, sort of act nice-ish, you know, wasn't necessarily too extreme to any one side or another, to any chaos or chill, and like it was just relatively nice character. So you could work stuff onto them in later episodes. So far they're pretty interesting. Then we can go with okay. Then the next character show season 17. Season 17 didn't. I mean, season 17 showed up quite a bit, but I wasn't too fond of them so far. They didn't do anything to. They didn't do anything to capture my attention. You know, they had a few things that were sort of gags, but they did not capture my attention that much, to be honest, and that's fine. I mean, when we got a 32-person cast, no, not 32-person, a 64-person cast, right? We absolutely just have to. Some characters aren't gonna stay the landing just yet, right? And even though I'm here discussing one by one, it's gonna take 1 million years, right? So, season 17 definitely not one that stuck out to me. Seemed pretty high energy, I think. Um, High energy, more confident type character, but haven't seen enough of them. Haven't seen much of them to really say. Same thing goes for the candy that's also in that same shot. They seem to be relatively more sort of commanding type character. I think, you know, they're sort of more commander. They don't necessarily make the rules, but they do like to play by rules. You know, like they're like, oh, you are in circular, so I will join your team. You know, like it's a pretty decisive personality. Didn't do that much, but same thing goes. Then there is the Cheeto, which or the Dorito or whatever they're called, the tortilla chip. What is your name? There's a lot of names that you could be called, like cheesy Cheeto probably. But you're fun. You're a relatively relaxed character. You give me vibes of Blueberry when they're happy. It's like they have never lost a staring contest, which was one of my favorite gags because like they don't see, like, I mean, they probably have eyes below, but like, yeah, that's quite fun. Then what else is there? Who else shows up? Ooh, yeah, Pot and the tree. Well, I don't know if it's the tree or the plant or whatever it is. Though that's a fun. That's fun. I can't lie. The fact that those two characters are connected and as one character, love that. That's a lovely little detail for sure. One of my favorite character styles in these types of object shows is absolutely character that is two character that are like two characters that are one character. So in this case of like arms being of the tree and then legs being of the pot, but then they're both separate characters. That is really interesting. I don't know if they're literally separate characters, as in like, you know, they function differently. Like if one gets eliminated, the other stays. I'm guessing not. I'm guessing they'd be eliminated as a batch because it's like hard to separate one without the other, right? But they should probably be other characters. No, but I think they did kind of two characters in the team making. So I don't know, to be honest. Well, I guess. Then we got Nonagon. Nonagon is the next one to show up. So that's another little character that is pretty interesting. I like Nonagon's speaking style. I like Nonagon's gimmick, to be honest. It's one of those glitchy style characters. That's a little weird because there's a lot of glitchy style characters. But I like Nonagon's deal, being like happy no matter what you say. Being sort of robotic, not robotic like the character, like robotical style, right? But being sort of joy while negative. Okay, I see what's going on. Gotta see more of them, but I think that's also pretty interesting. ID is it's currently just an ID. There's really not much else going for ID other than the fact that they ID things. That character is okay though. They seem relatively relaxed-ish. Then who else is there? Oh yeah, Weavery shows up next. Weavery's interesting. Um, they had this sort of thing going on with their team about like, you know, should we do this? Like they seem to be relatively wanting to do the challenge. They seem to seem wanting of the competition, despite being happy. You know, they enjoy happiness, but they're relatively normal. So that's interesting. Then, oh yeah, Danger Sign, dude. There's so many characters everywhere. I don't even know if I can do this. I'm 1 minute in, into the pausing at the characters. All about them. A danger sign, character that's trying to stop danger because, of course, they're a danger sign. That makes sense. They don't really do too much other than stopping danger. I'm worried about this character a little bit and what they're going to be because so far, I mean, having a character whose entirely gimmick is, oh, no, be safe, is usually wears itself off a little bit. For now, it's time. But now it's fine. I don't. Who is this? Like ice cream. I don't. You're not. I do remember zero things about that fella. Then we got Meatball. Oh yeah, Meatball was really interesting. So Meatball has got ultra stretchy limbs, which roll over all around the meatball. What a design! Got to be one of my favorite designs for sure. Can't even lie. Um, they eventually get used for the chance because they don't want to eventually take down the letter M. Um, because that starts with the initial. That's really interesting. I really like that character. Sort of protesting, but eventually the other fellas from the team. Cup is that sort of mean character. For some reason, I like a frozen cup. I like frozen coffee or something. But yeah, that character is sort of the meaner style character. It reminds me of Fanny quite a bit, to be honest. And then there's the crayons, which I generally don't have much recollection of the crayons. That one didn't exactly work. Oh yeah, true. Meatball made an entire house. Oh yeah, then there's the B block. The B block is mischievous. Reminds me of Pillar. Can't lie. I mean, he's different, definitely different, but yeah, it does remind a little bit of Pillar. Sort of just causes chaos by existing in a way. You know, they sort of just are in places and cause stuff to happen. So that's interesting. Uh, then what else is there? Ooh, man, this is a doozy of an episode, absolutely. And I have to be a little bit fast because otherwise I don't know. I might be talking about this for ages. Uh, Before I talk about any more characters, I also do want to say animation style is interesting style, absolutely, because it's not BFB style, where it's low effort necessarily, other than I guess Animatic themselves. But other than that, it's a relatively clean art style. Like the art style of this is, it's a good little art style right now that we've got, and it's pretty high effort. Like I see you like producing a 41-minute episode with this type of animation is absolutely not easy. So yeah, eventually they send the death penalty. Oh yeah, with freaking what do you call it? Arrow? Yeah, arrow. The left arrow. I like it. I like this left arrow. They have this sort of duo with eject, which eject this is sort of robotic speaking voice character. However, they're rather humorous, like they make jokes and stuff, which is interesting. Yeah, I like these duo. This duo definitely hit it strong because they're together and stuff. Then there is the freaking Rose Bouquet, who's also just seems to be the more sensible one, as everybody else doing the whole death stuff. Then there's Kane's bottle. Dude, there's so many people. There is an insane amount of people. There's an absurd amount of people. Then I think one of the main characters, absolutely the sticky hand, this like red sticky hand. They're sort of the hero character that everybody looks up to, because they save people, and they are pretty good at saving people. They just get distracted a lot and don't necessarily have the right priorities, but they are good at their job of saving people. Like if their job is saving people, they absolutely do save people rather well. So that's fair enough. And then there's P. P is absolutely just the golf ball style character. It's a bit different, but absolutely gives off that vibe of just the way they speak. You know, they sort of are a big strategist, think that they're smarter than the others, try to take people down, you know, that they don't consider like making sense, right? So P absolutely gives all that vibe. They get a lot of screen time. I really like how they walk. The walking in this show is hilarious every time. Every time that character has to walk, they do like this shuffle. It's absolutely adorable, to be honest. Then there's the beehive. Oh yeah, or hives as this called. Yeah, hives apparently weighs 300 pounds. Is quite good. No, needs to be for some reason. Needs to be. Um, and eventually drops off the bee, which stings off, and they like die. So now the bee isn't there anymore. So the hives need somebody. There's this slime goop fella. I don't even know what you're called. You really don't do anything. I mean, it's a bit complicated because you barely even speak. But yeah, then there's the chocolate milk. Yeah, milk carton. They are also what the hell does a milk carton do? I don't remember. Milk carton is like the more logical one of the Straw Gang, right? Because they had the Straw Gang fella. They're relatively unlogical, but the the milk carton one is one of the most logical. Then they have the recovery microwave. By the way, excellent little concept having this recovery microwave. It's interesting because yeah, you can recover everything that isn't an object from this microwave because they have codes, they have IDs. But if you're not an object, you can't get recovered because you don't have an ID, so the recovery microwave won't recognize you and be able to create you in a sense. So that is interesting. I mean, the sun character technically can't even get revived, so that's interesting. Animatic can also revive people, so it's not really necessary. But yeah, then got the gun Smash 14 likes being used. Relatively joyous despite being a gun. Yeah, likes being used. Doesn't necessarily mind the fact that they're a gun and murder people whenever people use them. Like they're sort of just enjoyable fella, which is interesting. I'd feel like I'd usually expect a character like this to be more conscious, you know, like usually like it's usually what people do because it's an interesting dynamic, right? Like Death Machine is conscious, but in this game, no, it's just, yay, yippee, woohoo, Mario. You know, it's pretty solid. Um, then Cheese It is just a very overexcited character who speaks all the time. Who else is there? Oh, Mushroom. First of all, this is absolutely a design for Plants vs Zombies. Plants vs Zombies is like this like mushroom, I think. PVZ? No. It's not called a mushroom. Mushroom are the ones from uh something. It's like called a, a scaredy shroom, yeah, but it looks a lot like it. It's like a purple mushroom. Love this character. I think it's my favorite out of the initial cast. They're sort of relaxed speaking sort of riddles, but they say these like one-liners that are just funny. You know, like just the way they speak and the way that they act is kind of funny. Um, but it's like this relaxed, stoic, mystical character. But then anything they say, just yeah, I never expect it, and I absolutely found it hilarious. So good job on that one. That was absolutely my favorite. But yeah, Cheez It is the overexcited one. Then we have got this arrow, the little arrow, left arrow. I don't even know what you're called. Or no, you're called oh, you're share because you're the share button. Okay, yeah. Um, that is a fella. They help out. They eventually win their challenge, but they don't really do that much in terms of speak. At least not that much that I can recall out of this fella. So that's an alright one. We're gonna need to see a bit more of them. Like they were like technical useful, but they weren't like that interesting useful. You know. Um. Oh yeah, then there's exclamation mark algebraian apparently. So they're still like necessarily trying to variate here from BFB or whatever. I know this is an algebraian through and through. They have, I think, the capability of recovery, I think, maybe. But, or do they? I don't know if they do. But either way, well, we don't see if they do, but they are just an algebraian. They're just sort of dookie crazy type fella who says stuff sort of random. It's like four without powers. Eventually, they just need the juice somehow. After exerting physical force, which they do end up getting. Doorframe is there. Doorframe doesn't do anything. Doorframe is more the source of the joke, of the gag, right? Because Doorframe needs to be saved rather than Doorframe currently, which isn't really much. So we'll have to see, I guess, Doorframe in a future episode. I hope they do so much because we really didn't see a lot of them here. Exclamation mark, however, immediately, of course, strikes off as an interesting character. I mean, an algebra villain as a contestant is not something we have seen before. So it creates an interesting dynamic on the team whenever we have an algebra competing rather than an algebra hosting, right? Especially because here in the show we have a host that Animatic isn't an algebra, but they are a thing that definitely acts like one. So, and even in the way that like the characters interact with Animatic when they show up is very like similar to an algebra because they just like you know are this weird entity that nobody really recognizes, and we just have to get figure it out, right? So yeah, eventually, oh yeah, there's this freaking rock mushroom fella that had a name that I don't remember. Their caption looked amazing. Oh, yeah, they just say dialogue. I can't even lie. That's just what they do. They do get a lot of lines doing that. I think they're pretty fun. Because they say die, but they're not like a one. They're not a one dot character, right? Like they have like a default, but eventually it like switches here and there. They help out the team, they do other stuff. So they are a pretty interesting character, and that means I think they're good. They're good. I like them. Thierry is just sort of this, I guess, more criticism character. Like they criticize a lot of stuff, so they're off doing that. Um, what else are they is showing up? Oh yeah, there's a freaking Notepad, which doesn't really speak properly, Or did Notepad ever speak? No, I don't think Notepad spoke. I saw like Notepad because I think they have like a drawn on face. They do draw ideas and stuff, which is interesting. I get to see the Notepad do all that jazz. Then we have Yoshi Egg, which exists. They seem to. Are they scared? No, they're just normal. They are very normal. They're not. There wasn't much I had to really say about it. So what else do I have to say? Oh yeah, there's acid. I thought this was just a water jug, and I think that was the default thought as well. But no, that is acid in the jar, and that is a mixer and not a straw. So it's like supposed to be like a subversion of expectation. You think it's like a water jug and a straw, but no, it's actually like a mixer and it's acid. So that's pretty interesting. I like them. They eventually end up losing their acid in one of the gags, so they can't really help out their team. But I like their commitment to wanting to be part of the straw gang despite not really being a straw. Then there's this freaking smiley face fella who speaks in weird and doesn't really do that much. Yeah, no, I really don't have anything to say about them. This cast is pretty big. Did you know? Then there's Don't. I like Don't. Apparently, they might be from another show. Don't and Mix or whatever, because they do. Okay, because yet again, this is a little bit of a callback because there is a previous show, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's a show from 3 to 2 years ago called Object Fool, which includes a certain. It's pretty much a joke show, but includes a portion of the characters that then return an animatic battle. I'm just looking at the thumbnails here. I can already see a bunch of them. I see Nacho. I can see the Tomato. I can see the Notepad. The danger sign. Right. I can see a bunch of them. Now watch Object Fool, so keep that in mind for anything that I say. But again, as have most people, the most viewed this video has, I think, like 6 or 7 times the amount of views that the most viewed Object Full episode have, and this isn't even the most popular video of Animatic Battle because Animatic Battle 2 has actually more views. So in general, I'm having the experience that most people are realistically having, right? I'll maybe one day watch it, but for now I won't. But yeah, Donuts is an interesting character. They apparently are relatively nice, I guess, because they agree. They, of course, are kind of scary, but yeah. Sippy is just, I guess, sort of the leader of the Straw Gang fella. That's what they're doing. Then there's still 1 million more characters. Tomato just Tomato's a deaf character, but not like the other one who just thinks about it all the time. They just actually wanna be dead. So that's interesting. That's like muffin moment. They pick grass, which alerts the what are you? This freaking lampshade or something? They are relatively joyous, except when somebody picks grass, they can sense it. They got the spider senses for grass, which is interesting. But I like this character. I absolutely think this is one of the characters that sticks the most in my mind out of the gags because it's a relatively interesting dynamic. They are relatively joyous and are considered pretty happy. However, if somebody picks grass, no, absolutely gun down, pa 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 pa. So I enjoy this character for sure. Then what else is there? Oh yeah, there's a cat that's over in space, bro. That cat I did not expect to be a contestant, but they are a contestant. The space cat, bro. What do I think of the space cat? I don't think many things. I mean, the space cat, they seem to be pretty powerful. They managed to eat the M, which the other fellas couldn't do. An entire team, just like 3 members of a team died entirely trying to eat the M. So in general, yeah, that cat seems to be pretty good at their job. So they are a character that seems to be more of the OP variety. Bowling Ball is this type of. A Bowling Ball gave me vibes of like that strong character, not too strong, Bowling Ball tried to crash down on the M, ended up dying. To be fair, that M was kind of OP. Tried to break the cage and ended up getting in themselves. They're sort of character that thinks that they're stronger than they are. No, it's not necessarily that Bowling Ball isn't strong, usually they're kind of dumb at decision making, right? Because like maybe you could break the cage if it was glass, but it's not glass. That that type of thing. So yeah, Bowling Ball kind of dumb, low character for sure. For some reason they all just like carrots. That's one of the gags But I do kind of like it. It's this type of random joke. That's just weird. Sticky. Did I talk about Sticky? I didn't talk about Sticky Note. Sticky Note is cool. I like Sticky. Sticky Note's design is great. But they're relatively more. They're a relatively peaceful little character. Not too loud, not too quiet. I like them. When Sticky's on screen, I think that's pretty good. Then there's who is this burger fella that's just joyous. That they're just the only thing I know about them is they're part of the Joy Society. They haven't really done much outside that. I don't know what you are. You're like a bagel cookie, I think. So okay. Oh no, that's a door stopper. Oh damn. Then there's it's yet again. It's one of it's a fluorite. I want to say fluorite. There's no way you're called fluorite. But it's like this diamond blue crystal looking thing. Yeah, again, not too much to really say except the fact that they're part of the Smile Club. Really, yet in this episode, the Smile Club sort of has worked entirely in unison in this episode. They didn't really segregate each other. So far, they're sort of completely interconnected, one as part of another in my mind. But I do think I don't remember who invents the idea of holding on to the M. I don't know, but that'll be interesting to see. Then there's the fellas with like those water gun and I think flashlight, which eventually won a smile as well. So then grabbing some stickies off of Sticky. Okay, that all makes sense. Oh yeah, there's Shoe, which is a cool fella. They're a cool fella, but not necessarily because they say they're a cool fella, just because the others say that they're cool. So that's what's going on there. Uh, I don't know who else is there. There is this gold. Oh yeah, there's this Gapple or Golden Apple or Gapple, or say Gapple because people say Gapple, and I think the characters in the show also say Gapple. Um, what is this character? What did they do? Oh god, I don't remember. Gapple, no. What do you do? I think you're like a leader. You're like another one of those leader style characters who like wants to assert dominance over their fellow peers, but doesn't really do too much. Um, then everybody else goes to the jail until it just explodes. So, yeah. What is. Is there anybody else have to think? Oh, yeah, no. Oh, there's obviously more people left in the cast, but what am I saying? There's Sprinter, Scaredy Cat Printer. Can't really do too much. Um, well, not say that they can't. Well, they have limited mobility because of the fact that if they do too much movement, the papers will fly out, which I do enjoy. But they do have a face on the paper. It's not like Notepad where it's drawn on, but they do like have a face on the paper, which makes it quite interesting. I think that's fun. I like that character. I like this character, this scaredy cat. Then there is like bat, baseball, bull, bat, or something. They really don't do anything. They're the character that I noticed the least, to be honest. I kind of like, oh no, you're a pancake batter. Oh, why do you have a baseball bat? What? I don't know, but yeah, the pancake batter definitely. I think probably would win my award for the least interesting of the episode. Didn't do much within a 64-person cast. Again, some people are going to be left out. Oh yeah, I like the idea of this Bob Almond pirate. I thought that they had a good dynamic going on. Like they're just kind of fun little goofballs who aren't very smart, but they're pretty goofballs. Then there's Clay Brick. That what the hell do you do? You just freaking. You're like an elite tier actor. You just make random noises. So good job on that. And then who is there? Hold on, how many more people even are there? Yeah, the arrows keep the innocent from harm. That's pretty good. Oh yeah, there's the ultra fancy little. Wait, what are you? You're like a freaking. No, I actually don't know what that is. Uh, you're like a bottle of something. To be honest. You're a bot or something, but yeah, that's the type of ultra fancy style character. What character mom? It's sort of okay. It's like a silver spoon candle blend. It's like the relaxedness of candle with the brashness of silver spoon. You know, that's how I would define it. And then there's also the demon core, which Kane's activates because of trying to get their straw back. However, what it does is it doesn't do that. It actually spawns animatic, which is one of the worst things that they could have ever done. But yeah, animatic shows up. What do I think of animatic, dude? Well, first the intro shows up. It's relatively BFB inspired as well. Um, dude, animatic is fun. You know, that's kind of the thing with animatic. I like animatic. Like, there is this thing with these like kooky, crazy hosts that they are a little bit sometimes feel stagnant because they have this thing that they are so like resilient in being bullshit that you sometimes it gets kind of boring. It was like early BFB. I don't like 4 in early BFB. Why? Because 4 in early BFB is sort of so it ends up stacking it because you can't reason with them at all in any reasonable capacity, right? So other than 1 or 2 gags, you like anybody who speaks to 4 just gets screeched or whatever, or gets disintegrated. And same is going really here with Animatic Battle. Like it's it's a very similar style of joke, you know. Like P complains, Animatic Battle says goodbye, right? And then they're just dead. Like characters get zapped and demolished, right? And all that stuff for speaking at all. So I'm worried heading into the other episode what the hell would possibly happen. But other than that, I do think that they're still better than early BFB4 because they're not as loud. They're just not as loud, and they are more interesting because rather than just talking with a weird voice, they glitch. Like they don't necessarily they talk in a weird manner. They don't respond properly. They um they're just kind of cool. To be honest, they are pretty cool comparatively to 4, but I'm worried, you know, like in one episode having hosts like this fine. I just hope that they're not just entirely like this forever, because other than that, it just wouldn't be that interesting, to be honest, you know. Like I think people like 4 more now than they did earlier, and that's for a pretty good reason. What is the prize? The prize is Greeny Guy 2. I what does that even mean? I don't know. But eventually they go form the teams. The team forming ends up being pretty swag. It ends up actually going pretty well. I like the pacing of the team forming. The team forming was actually quite good, to be honest. That time, that moment, that team forming moment felt like when the show sort of started to lock in. You know, it started to okay, we saw every character, and now we're doing the team forming, and now we're doing interesting things, right? So that's like more what I was. That's when I started to more understand the show. Like when you see a character for the first time, you're like, okay, who are you? When you see a character for the second time, this is when you start to understand it, right? So let's talk about the team. So Team Object 4 has the non-Shaw Days fella, the dangerous fellas, I guess, with the demon cave or whatever. What do you call it? Demon core. And don't. So they're sort of the more dangerous fella. P, sort of the analytical fella trying to lead the team. Mushroom, who's very strong. That team is pretty strong. I can't even lie. Like we've got a good think. Like we've got some strong, powerful contestants. We've got contestants that are willing to listen, and we've got characters who can have a lot of versatility and a mind, right? Because a lot of these characters, a lot of these teams sometimes have the problem that their characters don't really have a mind, you know, in that way. So it's very complicated. Happy Meatball, the team that formed around uh Meatball, is fair enough. You know, people just like Meatball. It's a good name. That team, who is it? It's the two fellas with the smile. Then it's season 17, the fancy fella, B Block, the face, and the. Okay, yeah, that team ended up being pretty coordinated, surprisingly enough, you know, in getting Meatball to get rid of the young. Because I wouldn't usually immediately consider that team an incredibly cooperative one, but they did manage to get around with it, so we're hoping over the better. Papaya has got the mini disky and popcorn, which is the duo. The mud exclamation mark was pretty. Yeah, there's a good chunk of things going on here that could be considered. It's like it's a relatively relaxed team, you know, in the sense that we've got a scaredy cat and we've got a scarer, which is the exclamation mark, and then we got an angry fella in the cup. But in general, if you think about it, pancake batter's pretty chill. The broken ornament's pretty chill. Mini disky and popcorn, they're like high energy, but they're not like weird, and Shu is also pretty chill. So there's pretty chill vibes going on in that team. If they decide to just do a challenge, if the challenge is not unbelievably complicated, they should be capable of doing it. This challenge, to be fair, was pretty damn complicated because they can't really do much. But thank you, exclamation mark, dealt with it by just talking about carrots. That was a funny way to have them win the challenge. I can't even lie. That's like a callback to early in the episode. So thank you, exclamation mark. And then there's Happy Meat Bill, which I think was were they the first one safe? No, they're the ones who nearly all. Wait, where did the first one save, or did they one up for Elam? Who was up for Elam? I don't remember. No, up for elimination was Benja. Oh yeah, they're one of the. They definitely struggled, to be honest, because to be fair to them, their team, the M that their team had was definitely one of the tougher ones for sure. Cause like that M just wasn't budging. For another team, like they just dipped. Like it just absolutely dipped. So in this case, they did pretty well. Like what team crushed it? I don't remember. It was the freaking the Object Fool team, right? Because the Arrow came in and crushed it, but as soon as like the bowling ball tried it from all the way to the top, no, they just died. So like that M, in my opinion, was definitely stronger than the other one. So Happy Meat Bill, I think they're relatively all right as a team though. We've got some friends, some minds, and some strength. I think that they could be interested in some of our challenges. They just need, I think, a better luck. Grant Swag. This team was not was pretty damn struggling because but until Notepad eventually just created a 10 out of 10 idea. Like, absurd little idea. So smart. I don't know how it worked in the way that it worked, but everybody else just sat there and listened to the leader. Well, not really a leader, but like, they all went along with it and it worked out pretty perfectly. So, I mean, and if Notepad can keep going out those ideas, that team's in a pretty good spot. Then there's Most. Most has the power of that cat. That cat is very good at his job. But other than that, I'm absolutely worried about this team. If that cat isn't capable of doing a challenge, I'm worried about it because there's a danger signal that doesn't do anything because everything's too scary. There's the Claybait doesn't make much sense. Cheetah does too high energy. The slime that nobody can understand. The head that just gets into trouble. Then there's ID and the Confederate that don't really seem like leader characters. They're gonna let much happen. So worried about Mouse. Challenge. In this case, they're safe because of the cat, but if the cat doesn't play, that's complicated. Then there's Diet, the team of Joy and Whimsy. They end up actually keeping the M because the M ended up being chill. The T and the landscape liked them. Which Animatic, surprisingly enough, let slide. Animatic smelled it, but apparently no. It was the gun, guys. Trust. So we'll see. I mean, that team, if they can keep. If Animatic catches them, they are screwed of an elite order. But if they're not caught, then I do think that they're a relatively solid team. But I don't know, are they a solid team? Dude, that team would be a struggle. In certain challenges, they would struggle because they're just sort of they give me Death Pack vibes where it's like they're so like committed to the thing of just joy and everything that when they have to lock in and do a damn thing, they just don't. And that is the type of vibe that team gives me. So that team could lose some challenges. There's Team Benjamin, which does end up losing this challenge by not being capable of getting rid of the M. I'm very surprised at this, to be honest. They just absolutely did not coordinate themselves even a little bit. Because yeah, no, there was no coordination. I mean, they have the duo of freaking what are you called? You're not called an arrow. You're called something. No, because there's the share button. What are you called? You're not eject is the emoji. Who? What are you? Oh God, the two blue arrows. I don't remember your name. No. Rewind? No, you're not called Rewind. I don't know what you're called. God damn it. But like that duo could have absolutely done something there to the letter M, the sticky hand as well. Like that team gave me vibes of team that's relatively unfocused. Cause yeah, there's not a real like there is a leader in that team. The people consider the sticky hand a leader, but they're just not a good leader. They're a terrible leader. So that team ends up for elimination, and heading into the future, if eject and the fellas don't lock in, then we could be having here a little trouble. Speaking of which, that team is up for elimination. So who is getting eliminated? I don't know. I would immediately. Okay, my guess would be Jedge. Immediately. Oh, but it's vote to save. Okay, the thing about vote to save is that it's more likely that a character who's a bit meaner but funny, who like made the team lose but was funny, gets to stick around because they got a lot of screen time. But I think an annoying character that you wouldn't want to save would be somebody like Jedge. I would say Jedge might get eliminated. Would somebody like Eject or Tiri get eliminated? Maybe. No, I'd say Jedge. I'm gonna go with Jedge because they're sort of they're sort of the type of character that is annoying. The fellas find them annoying, right? And it's not too good just overall, right? I'd personally eliminate them because the other fellas in the team are pretty decent. Raid ended up being a hero at the end and all that stuff. So I think that's pretty interesting. And then Silly Straw. Oh yeah, wait, I never talked about Silly Straw in the original discussion. Yeah, Silly Straw speaks all in muffles. They eventually went on a walk after getting bullied. I guess we'll wonder if they ever come back from it. I already talked about this episode for an incredibly little long amount of time. I talked about most of the cast sets were the ones that I didn't see while skimming through the episode. Yeah, I didn't talk about Raid either. No, Raid really did nothing, to be fair though. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoy what's happening. I think it's honestly early BFB but good. Let's see if it's gonna keep itself going in Animatic Battle 2, Caffeination Day. This video has more views than the first episode, which is something extremely rare as far as just things are concerned. Episode 2 and more views than 1? When does that happen? I don't know. But let's discuss it then. The main things I'm hoping is just Animatic isn't exactly the same. I need to hope that Animatic has some different gags. And in general, I'm hoping for a swift experience because there's still so many people, right? It's one of those big cast object shows. We need more challenges like this. We need to get it through fast. And like these early episodes where you can't really do too much character development, we need to get through them. And yeah. Caffeination Day. Let's see what the hype was all about. Let's go. Alright, I have just watched the Animatic Battle 2 Caffeination Day. Um, so remember when I said earlier, right, that, Automatic was sort of weird, right? But like they weren't as bad as the as like early BFB4 because they don't screech as much, they don't do that. That I said I said that hit quote by me. They don't no 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 they would never do it as much, maybe once or twice, but they would never do that. Wow. I am wrong as hell. I hope that, like, if anything is supposed to prove to you that I genuinely haven't watched these shows, I think that unbelievably wrong sentence that I said should be an indicator of what I mean, bro. How do I get it that wrong? This entire episode is pretty much a big screech. So, at least it's a big screech for a reason. Like even Animatic explains it. Like everybody thinks it's because Animatic is going crazy, but Animatic is not really going crazy. That's just the challenge. The challenge is survive from the screechiness. And yeah, I mean it is the challenge, but like, oh my god, bro, that is crazy. Okay, screeches are, in my eyes, a pretty poor thing because it's not a fun sound. Like it's not a sound you wanna listen to in a way, and it's not like that. It's just I don't think it's a good source of humor, in my opinion. Which is why I think that I'm satisfied that they start doing that in BB eventually. But like in this case, it's like it's the one I'll give it the benefit of a pass because that's the challenge. That's the point, right? We're dealing with an extra crazy animatic. We're dealing with all that stuff, right? So, okay, sure. Animatic in general remains in their sort of self, or like they can't really be reasoned with in any sort of capacity. But again, in this case, we're really not trying to reason with them at all. So, uh, yeah, Animatic has a crazy amount of caffeine. They're just going absolutely insane, like completely insane. We got to see the intro, which is cool. Everybody loves the intro of Animatic Battle. No, I actually kind of enjoy it. It's pretty good. But the challenge ends up being, yeah, survive. That is the challenge that is made. There's a lot of gags everywhere, right? You know, the characters and all this stuff. A lot of characters take a big backseat in this episode. Why? Because we have got, what, 63 contestants? No, we still have 64 to 64 in this episode because Dorfin gets eliminated. But it's like Animatic doesn't actually host the elimination because Animatic's going crazy. So we just hear that Dorframe's eliminated from the contestants, from Jedge, right? While the rest of them do the stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'm bad at predicting vote to save. I'm gonna be honest. I'm way worse at predicting vote to save than I am a vote to eliminate because it's a bit more unpredictable. Like who's a fan favorite? It's just that when somebody's a fan favorite, they will never stop being a fan favorite. Right? Like you have to see it once for it to very much be decided. But actually seeing it before that once, it's pretty tough to see. So yeah, I'll be very interested in episode 3 or whatever if we actually get to see an animatic host in elimination, because I'm really curious about what the hell that would look like. The animatic doesn't even seem coherent enough to speak half a sentence. Barely coherent enough to explain a challenge, and now we need to host an elimination. Like, I don't even know how they would ever do that. But yeah, a lot can take a back seat because the thing about the last episode is 41 minutes because it's, you know, it's the intro segment plus an episode 1 has to introduce us to all the characters, then introduce us to the competition, and then start the competition. Basically, is what it has to do. This is why it's an extra long episode 1 always nearly, because it has this added on section that can pretty much be the length of an episode. So that is why a lot of shows do a 1A 1B, because they do that initial section, they're challenging the second one, because it's just a good way to spin it. When you don't, what happens is what happens here, right? It was not here. What happens in episode 1? We end up having a 15-minute intro, 5 minutes of the post be like just existing, and we figure out the competition, and then the challenge takes an additional 20 minutes. Then you just make an omega 40-minute episode, right? But in this case, and for nearly every subsequent episode of Animatic Battle, realistically, we would see something like this, right? Where it's like a 20-minute episode, roughly, right? Depending on the challenge, it's more or less. I mean, I guess maybe I'm wrong because 4A, that release date, is 4A. So I don't know what is happening at 4B, but we got A and B's already working by episode 4, which is not great. But either way, that's in the future. In the now, yeah, there's a lot of gags that, it's hard for me to actually review a joke. Like, I can't review a joke, so I'm gonna usually just gloss over those. But yeah, Judge ends up saying, absolute goat. Kind of shaped like Mr. Incredible becoming canny. But, we do get some stuff. I like the exclamation mark in this episode. Exclamation mark was kind of swag. I can't even lie. That was the moment that shook me, absolutely. Like when I saw Animatic Battle, no, when I saw Animatic actually get cooked by exclamation mark for like at least 12 seconds. It wasn't very long that there was a fight, but it was like a 10-second fight, all right? That was pretty damn elite. I can't even lie. You know? That was pretty crazy. So good job, exclamation mark. That was flag. I see why it was the thumbnail. It was like the best animated scene as well in the episode. Yeah, again, the animation of the show, it's not okay. It's not mind blowing. All right, it's not mind blowing animation. There's some scenes that have higher effort than usual, but it's not mind blowing. But it's very clean. Basically, is what this is going on with this show. It's an extremely clean aesthetic, right? Like it just looks very all right, pretty much all the time. It looks very 8, 7.5, 8 out of 10 all the time, which is pretty good. What is one thing that I also really like? Again, captions for this is elite. I don't know who has made the captions for at least these 2 episodes, but they have done an incredibly good job, because everything is color matched to the aggression, to the underlining, to the italics, the bolds, like everything is so like like just thing, like even to the specifics of how Animatic is speaking, right? Where Animatic, like anytime Animatic speaks aggressive, it's in red. Anytime Animatic speaks regular, it's in blue, and a light blue, and the light blue sometimes changes. Is that it's quite interesting. I must say that the captions absolutely, as far as object shows are concerned, right now strikes me as the best captioning work so far that I've seen in an object show. Point blank. That's what I'm saying. I'll see if they continue that in 3 and 4A. But yeah. Now, in general, this challenge is okay. Okay, I'm not a big fan of these challenges, to be honest. I'm gonna be 100% for real here, because it's sort of this weird challenge style where a team can do literally nothing and be safe. Right, like it's not a very objective challenge in a sense, where you've either done it or you haven't done it. It's very much so like an animatic finds you, and animatic finding you is entirely based on what the writers decide, right? Like a team just survived by being in a circle and having salt on there. Like they didn't do anything. They pretty much didn't do anything. They had like 2 scenes or whatever. But like in general, they just get to live off of that, right? Because of just like in general, not Animatic just not getting there. Just didn't go there. I'm sure if Animatic went there, they would have absolutely got everybody, right? But the fact that Animatic didn't just means that they're safe, right? So I'm not a big fan of these challenges because certain teams can just fly completely under the radar and get through, while like this is not the type of stage in a competition where you want teams to be able to fly under the radar. Like you want Tasha have to be in the radar. Like you want to be able, because if stuff is in the radar, people will see the team, and people will see the characters, and we still need to get acquainted with all of these characters because there's so many little characters, right? There's so many characters, 64 characters. There's going to be 61 theoretically in the next episode. So like we just need to be able to see them. So having this like objective challenge where a team has either needs to achieve a thing, and when they've achieved the thing is good. So maybe not too good. I mean, of course, not every challenge can be the way I've described, obviously, but in this early game portion, like this super early game portion, you know, I think we've got to do it. Like, you have to need. I think it's just the best way to do it, in my opinion, so that we get to recognize the character in these early, like at least 5 episodes, right, where we still got over 50 characters. We won't know any of them well enough, so we just need to be able to see as much of them as possible. And having certain challenges where teams can stay still and survive, just depending on if Animatic finds them or something. This is not the way. Also, apologies to like every voice actor who just had to scream aggressively when Animatic found them. That must be a thing. But yeah, guys, this episode was good. I like Weathery. Weathery in this episode absolutely was an interesting character. I enjoyed them. I like the eject. Eject is pretty fun. Yeah, listen, I like the exclamation mark. Um, Animatic themselves. Okay, what do I think of Animatic themselves? Because we're doing all the screeches, which I'm not a big fan of, but in general, right, I do like Animatic's jokes. It's a random nature that makes sense for Animatic and all that stuff. It's just there's this like obnoxiousness and stuff to loud noises that I'm not a big fan of, and it does hurt it. But Animatic themselves does have a lot of gags. Like they know how to write Animatic. There's always like Animatic. There's always something up their sleeve. So that's cool. That's fun. I like the joke with landscape and Nonagon appreciating life, and then um Animatic. So yeah, I don't really know. Characters are solid. I really like the cat just chills in space, bro. Like how do you just chill in space like all the time? Like is that you're just allowed to do that. Just allowed to compete from space. I mean, at that point, where are you competing? You know, like I wouldn't expect you to want to compete. Like you're literally in space. You know, I got like what? But yeah, I mean, so two teams end up for elimination. Let's talk about that, right? Because in general, there's not so much else to say. There's B block that's interesting. Actually, yeah, B block is they're doing something with that. You know, being whole mischievous thing. The team's gonna need to have a proper pep talk. We're gonna need to see that happen, which is gonna be interesting. Yet again, I like Weavery. I like just a lot. I like a lot of characters. I really. Oh yeah, I like the gag of season 17 being a sort of meta character, being a meta. Uh, Trying to make a voting screen happen, and then Animatic go, no, let's not do that. Animatic eventually gets both teams, and then we figured out what happens when you get eliminated. You get turned into an Animatic. Well, you know, you get slowly turned worse and worse quality until you are done. You are just dead forever, which is not great. So, all right, sorry about first. The first thing, the elephant in the room. This is double elimination now. We got two teams getting voted for. Which is this a good thing? Yes, absolutely. Okay. No, yet again. I'm sorry. With these shows, how did we ever go even any amount of time, like even one episode, thinking that we can do single elimination with a cast this big is already insane. Like, I'm sorry. You have to remember 64-person cast. One person gets eliminated per episode. Let's imagine, okay? Then we have, let's say, maybe two rejoins. Okay, all right, two rejoins. Then let's say just because of one finale, all right, and then let's say there's three more episodes where something just kind of happens, right? And then there's A's and B's, right? Long episodes and stuff. Episode where somebody doesn't get eliminated for some reason, right? If you imagine that even that pretty nice situation happens, that's 70 episodes. You know, it's like, how would you ever even go about imagining that as something possible? That is one of the insane things. So obviously, yes, do double elimination. Double elimination helps by like halving the number to only 32 episodes that we need, which is still a pretty freaking crazy amount, especially for doing A's and B's like Animatic Battle seems to be. So like in general, yeah, these big cast object shows, this is their main problem that they have to contend with, right? They just have so many episodes they have to do. But in terms of writing for this episode, it's pretty good. Though, like they're managing to write these large casts pretty well. They're doing pretty well at it, even though I was personally not a fan of this challenge because teams just kind of coasted by under the radar, and the dead teams got the least screen time because they ended up dying, right? So, and what am I saying though? From Team Diet, who would I eliminate? Who would get eliminated? I'd probably guess that Crazy Food would get out. From Team Happy Meat Bill, I would probably guess. Ooh, probably Bob On. Bob On did Bob On do anything in this? Bob On might have had a scene or two, but I don't know how they would get out. Maybe Tomato. Oh, I don't know. Because the thing about this team is that these two teams didn't really necessarily throw that much. You know, like there wasn't anybody that necessarily made them lose. So yeah, I'm gonna say Bob On and Crazy Food get out, vote Sage is hard to deal with. Um, Glad to see that we're getting more enhancements on the mini disky friendship with popcorn. You know, that's one of the dynamics that we learned about earlier on, and we're getting to see that more, you know, in depth, I guess, here. Which it's always cool. It's always fun to be capable of seeing that. You know, those types of more friend stuff, right? Occur, right? Because we gotta get stuff to happen eventually. That's not just challenges. and having these little post-credit scenes to be able to get us to see more stuff happens. I hope to see more like Weathery, properly evolve as a character and all that stuff. And there's so many characters everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's a character. Look, I just look to the left. I see friggin' a teapot. Like it's just, I see like I see cup. Like I'm looking over it, I see a cup. Like it's crazy how many characters there are in this show. Right? It's crazy. And we need to get some of them out. So I think I've talked for all I got to talk about here for Caffeination Day, which is one of the most. Remember, I just talked about a big episode. That was one of the biggest object show episodes in terms of views, um, outside of I and BFDI. Like it was ranked number. What ranking was it? Remember, I calculated this. I think Object Overload, right, was number one, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. Was it Overload? Just to make sure. Yeah, Object Overload is the most one. That's 7 million. But Animatic Battle is right up there. It's maybe the freaking 1/4 episode of CFMO Team I have more. But it's there anyways. Like it's up. It might be second, or third, but either way, it's pretty much there. So, but huge props for managing to get a show this popular. Absolutely, it's very nice managing to replicate the vibes, especially while BFB got popular for creating these types of vibes, then of course by evolution it sort of lost a lot of these vibes. But now it has to get them back. Has to get the vibes back, right? A show needs to try to evoke that same vibe, and some stuff is trying. This is trying. I know the Troll Bunny later show is also doing that. So yeah, good stuff. Let's start with Animatic Battle 3, the latest episode for, like, at least what was the episode that sent into the over a year hiatus of Animatic Battle. It's called Seeds for Suckers. All right, then, let's watch it, and then we'll talk all about it. Let's go. Alright, so I just watched Animatic Battle 3 Seeds for Suckers, and you see, in my opinion, right, that is better. That is better. In my opinion, this episode is better than the last one. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, right? Because the last one, I guess, it was more animatic focus. But this episode, it was just kind of a good time. It was that type of episode where you kind of eventually, not, I didn't necessarily space out of it, but like, as I say, sometimes, a lot of time when I'm watching these episodes now, right, I'm watching them sort of with a keen eye, thinking about things to say. So I think that one of the good things that a show can do is when I sort of zone out from that mindset into just watching it and enjoying watching the show, then I think then that's a real positive thing for me personally, because that gives off like the right signal that, oh yeah, like this was good because I enjoyed watching it. First of all, let's start off here with a thing that I didn't actually point out last time, which I forgot to because there were a lot of things to point out in that episode. So we have recommended characters, as every show does. Again, I've said this here and there, but I'm gonna say it for every time I see it. Yeah, recommended characters are always just a good idea because why not, right? I mean, yeah, maybe it's effort to draw some assets, but like in general, it's just a really positive thing. The creator gets, the community member gets happy, the creator gets happy, it's community, it's fan interaction, especially with shows like these that could sometimes take so long in production. You want to be able to sometimes feel that connection with the audience that can be lost here and there from time to time, when there's such a big gap and like silent, fellas that don't usually give a lot of updates. You could sometimes feel. I think recommended characters are a good way to get back that connection to the audience a little bit. Be like, hey, you are here too, right? It's that special thing. So we got to see Cheese It. Honestly, for like half a moment, Cheese It is like almost weirder than Animatic in this episode. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know what Cheese is doing. Cheese It is kind of insane in this episode. Just straight up eats Saturn, which is an interesting thing. But they eventually become Saturn. They earn Saturn's ring, so now they just have that. We had the intro again, lovely little intro as usual. Um, and then we have, well, after we try to figure out what's going on, we actually have the elimination, which is quite cool, honestly. I was wondering how Animatic was going to host an elimination ceremony, and it was fun. I like it. This type of elimination ceremonies where everybody's just sitting there, kind of has to deal with it, can't really fight back too much what's going on, right? Because it's already sort of happened, it's not going to change the outcome of anything. This type of elimination ceremony is right here where an animatic and sort of their humor shines the best, in my opinion, because like you can proper it's free reign. Everybody has to be there at that moment, not move. So Animatic just gets full free reign to be weird, to be random, but they don't need to be upset at people because the people aren't responding, right? Which means that they just get to entirely just be themselves, YOLO, do a silly dance, do all that stuff. The prize is the remains of exclamation mark, which is hilarious. Um, freaking Animatic resenting them because they just like don't because there was the one fella who made Animatic's life even remotely complicated. Yeah, that's a thing. So eliminated on the first team that was up for eliminated was Eye Patch. So wait, who I don't even oh yeah, the happy team. No. The first eliminated is Dioptase from the happy team. Sorry. So I get the second last, I guess, the crazy food. Dioptase, yeah, they weren't, I guess, too interesting. This is yeah, see, this is that type of elimination where again, in a vote to eliminate, I don't think they get out, but in a vote to save, they kind of get out because they're sort of that character nobody thinks about in a way, almost. There is this thing with eliminations sometimes that when you're trying to predict eliminations, right? There is one thing that you can do in vote save situations, right? What you gotta consider, it depends, of course, it's a case by case basis, but usually the character which is your first thought of, oh, you didn't do anything, that you might not be the one. Because to be the one who's getting eliminated in a vote to save, you have to be the least relevant. And sometimes being the least relevant in and of itself is relevant again, right? Which means that you have to look at like the next one over, the character that is like, you weren't relevant and I didn't consider you the least relevant, because that means that it's going to cover the least amount of people. Because sometimes in a vote to save, people just want to save the character that is in the worst spot, and the character that's in the worst spot is the character that was the least interesting, right? So I think that this is a thing that happens quite a bit in these types of eliminations. Um, because of that. So here I get second to last, but Dabtaze is out. Goodbye. Yeah, you weren't that interesting, to be honest. you were. It's not that bad of an elimination, to be honest. And on the other team, Eye Patch ends up getting out. That is pretty fair, to be honest. Here that Eye Patch will get eliminated. Like no, yeah, Eye Patch got eliminated. Yeah, I predicted that Bob was getting eliminated. I got it correct in the sense that yeah, it was like that duo that wasn't too interesting, but I got the wrong fella. Bob got the vote to saves from the duo voters, while Eye Patch is the one who mainly did it. And yet again, that makes sense. It's a character that so far didn't do anything too iconic. Like I like the thing that Bob and Eye Patch were doing. Like I like their dynamic. It was a nice little friend dynamic, silly fun, but we didn't get to see much of that in the episodes, which isn't really any writing's fault. Like these early eliminations, I would never consider it any writer's fault for a character getting eliminated, because you're just writing an episode, right? There's just so many things to write that you can't put that much of a focus on it. So at the end of the day, some characters are just going to be getting that short end of the stick type thing, and it's just gonna happen. In general, I think that both of these eliminations weren't too far off. Like, I think it was like 200 votes each. So it wasn't necessarily that any character was absolutely the least, although vote to save numbers, of course, do tend to generally be closer together. But in general, no character was incredibly, like, obvious that they would be getting out. So I would say that overall, it was pretty good. Pretty solid elimination here. I would say it was a good job on getting the team up for Elam to have a relatively wide spread of potential ideas, right, about who would get eliminated here. So, like that. Then, by the way, just a little point out, I don't know if 4A is going to have it, so I'm going to point out right here. Yet again, captions continue to be elite here. Like, the captioning work of whoever put on the subtitles of the video, whoever captioned this video, is like these Animatic Battle episodes. They do an excellent job. It's so much effort. Everything is color-coded. Everything is specifics, even to the point where when Animatic turns around, right, and the little, like, freaking this sound plays, like Spark Plant play for like 0.1 seconds. The little freaking caption of a smiley face happens because the freaking animatic smiley face, right? Like it's just so smart. It's so not necessary so much of the time, but it adds to the experience. Captions add to the experience when they're done correctly, and I think this is an example of it being done correctly, right? I remember, for example, I praised This is Scrapbook, one of the videos, I think the second one, for having that. Eventually, it didn't continue having that, which was unfortunate, but the fact that at least these 3 episodes that are big episodes, right, the big, like, 4 episodes that got millions of views, right? These ones at least have it. I don't know if 4A is going to have it as a new episode, right? It's an A episode as well, which I always sort of wonder sometimes if the A and B episodes are going to be what they are, because, for example, Animated Battle 4A was not added to the playlist, which means that is it the episode in a way? Like, you just wonder, because if there's a 4A and 4B, would they get combined into a 4? Like that, like, would that possibly happen? It's like, oh shit, it's taking too long to publish 4A. That is another little thing that could be going on. I'm just theorizing because I don't know what's going on with the episode that released there. I'm just curious that it's not in any of the playlists for Animatic Battle, right? So looking into it, I just don't really know what could be going on with it. So yeah, I'm curious, and I'm hoping to be able to find out in due time. But first, we're gonna talk about the challenge itself. It's a significantly more relaxed little challenge, which is a sunflower seed. Everybody gets 1 sunflower seed. So, and the challenge is to grow a sunflower. If you've grown a sunflower, you're safe. If you destroy your sunflower seed, because you only got 1, that means that you have lost and you're immediately up for elimination, right? Which is an interesting concept. It's sort of both situations where it's both the first team to do blank and it's the last team to do blank can both work. Realistically, it's the strategy to employ in a channel like this, I would say, would probably be to keep it low key, like sort of just plant it, but don't do much about it because you don't want to risk destroying it, and the other teams are sort of a mess. So I would probably, if I was like P or something, strategize. By the way, P has sort of stopped strategizing like most of the time. Come on, P, come back. P, we haven't seen you do anything in like 2 episodes. Like, in general, I would probably say that, yeah, the idea is just to plant it and maybe let it. I like the team that was chilling out. That team sort of had the plan because so much of the time you can just sort of get by by just letting the other teams lose, and it was gonna work, but it eventually doesn't because of the hate B block who causes mischief. Seems to be one of the main little plot lines going on. Of course, the B block, the team trying to stop the B block trying to do being a better person, all of that stuff, right? So that's going on. The B block seems to be one of those primary characters right now. But we've had that character be one of the primary characters for 2 episodes now. You see, there's just so much stuff going on all the time. Like, there's just so many characters that when one gets focused on, a lot of the time the others won't, right? So it's like, it just ends up as sort of a chaotic thing. One team I think grows the sunflower by doing nothing. Jedge eventually decides to become a better person, to become hashtag me. Not a beta, as they would say. Somehow that tier grows a perfect sunflower. What an animation there, by the way, for growing the sunflower seed into the flower. Jedge, do you have anything to say about Jedge? Jedge is growing on me, maybe. To be honest, I like the joke of the leg switching around. Okay, yeah, and then the teams of happy smiles and faces ends up getting sent to freaking the coldest place on earth. Why? Because that's the punishment. That was the punishment because they cheated in the challenge, right? In challenge number 1, they kept the M and then proceeded to lie to Animatic about it. Animatic was like, okay, sure, you're safe. And then Animatic was obviously not very happy about them, so sent them to East Greenland, or what? I mean, they didn't send them to East Greenland, but they thought they were in East Greenland. So yeah, they end up having a relatively nice reconciliation with Weathery, which was actually the reason why the weather was so stormy there. But yeah, eventually they end up getting back. Weathery ends up having very bad emotional capability. I gotta lie, somebody lied one time about, yo, it's gonna work, all right, and then it doesn't work, and it's like, is that called lying? Because like that's just called being wrong. But like if you're wrong, it doesn't necessarily mean you're lying. You know, like if somebody said, "Yo, this is gonna work," I wouldn't say you lied. I would say you're wrong, which is technically a different thing. Because lying, I would say, is saying a thing with the specific intent of being wrong. You know, it's saying like with the intent to deceive. But if you're saying something, like if you say, for example, an idea like animatic isn't gonna get us, that doesn't that's wrong, but that's not because like that's not a lie, because a lie would be saying animatic isn't gonna get us. Well, you're thinking, oh yeah, animatic's got us. You know, like that type of thing. So I don't know if I wouldn't consider that lying in my personal view of it, because to be honest, wasn't really lying. You know, it was not really lying. I wouldn't call it lying. To be honest, I think that's pushing it quite a bit, quite a lot. To be honest, but eventually they managed to get back from whatever desert lands they're in because somebody plucked the grass, the Gapple, which is now Mini Gapple, Gapple Junior. Um, so that team pretty much entirely dies. However, uh, Yoshi Egg ends up just sort of clutching up and winning it. I really like the way that Animatic shows up and tells everybody to hurry up from within the sunflower. Animatic's really good in this episode. You see, I don't know. I like Animatic when they're not just like a murdering machine. Like that's what I like about these characters. 4 has random humor that works, right? For example, but like when it's not just murdering people for no reason, you know, like that's the thing about these random humor characters. I enjoy the random humor. Like I really do. I enjoy it. It's good. It's fun, right? But it just has to arrive with being random humor, not just the same joke, right? Like it has to be something. And in the last episode, it's fine because it's a challenge. But you see, I'm high that in this episode we chilled it out so much more with that. In fact, I don't even know it. They squeezed even once, so that's pretty good. I mean, maybe first time is right, but other than that, it was like relatively alright. So Object Fu is the first team up for elimination because Bio the gruesome hazard or whatever you're called, the thing that just wants everything to die ends up giving a bad tip that ends up destroying their sunflower seed because water would get it to grow, but no, that was actually citric acid which got it to dehydrate and eventually be dead, which means that what are your name? Bioluminescent, that's the name. So they're immediately up on the chopping block. I mean, if it was a vote to eliminate, obviously, you know they'd be getting out. But the vote save it is a little bit more complicated. I would still maybe predict them to get out, but I don't know. To be 100% honest, I could not tell you. I could not tell you if they're getting out or not. But yeah. So they're doing that thing. They are up for a elim. I do like the fact that the freaking Raising Cane cup is just like there's built for the farm, you know, yeehaw. That was fun. Um, and then there's okay, yeah. So with the power of so what happens is they want to revive exclamation mark, right? Because that's a good team member. I mean, okay, to be 100% honest, I didn't really understand it that much. And this challenge, exclamation mark is probably terrible. I'm not even gonna lie. Exclamation mark and their sort of random talk, random doing would be pretty awful at growing a sunflower seed. I'm not even gonna lie. Like the fact the team is probably better off without the exclamation mark. But then what happens is that everybody tries to revive the exclamation mark with the power of friendship on the recovery machine. That doesn't really work. I mean, it does work, but it revives exclamation mark, the other one with one leg, who's like a red exclamation mark. What? That is like the epiphany of the show. That's the most what moment ever. You just get an entirely different character just not even like helping anything. They're just existing, frolicking, as they say, entirely just because, right? Like that's just what they do, and yes, that is the random humor of the show. I think is represented best in that one scene. You know, is that how ain't no way we're adding a character for this, but it's fun. It's a fun gag. It's funny. Like it's good. I like it. It's good. Um, yeah, eventually frolicking, they get everybody else to convince to frolic, but then you get um the freaking thing raid, which is in charge of protecting B blocks because B block gets sunk to the ground, absolutely sunk to the ground by their team. So then they go, "Hey raid, look over B block, don't let him go." But raid, raid's trying to be a hero and stuff, but they just gotta frolic. He's God frolic. And you know what? I get it. And then B Block goes over to cause some absolute mayhem, destruction, and all of the above. B Block ends up doing chaos a little bit, but then decides to sabotage a different team because it wouldn't be right if you sabotage your own team. It's not like that's what they did last challenge. Then we have a cool little battle scene with the B Block. B Block's pretty damn good at fighting. Notepad ends up doing the evil Notepad. And they do try to friggin' fight back. Like Notepad tries to be pretty aura there, being like fall or give us the seed. But then people are like, yeah, we can recover, bro. I mean, end of the Notepad doesn't even die. Notepad actually stays alive. Stays exactly where they were. They same place, to be honest. Which is like that's a bad because people could get revived. I can't revive Notepad. What Notepad gonna do? Right. So that's actually problems for them. So that's the thing. But you see, Animatic is surprisingly nicer than I was expecting when the team come back. Like that's crazy. Like when Diet comes back, like genuinely the fact that Animatic actually takes the time to explain the challenge again to the team. I am shocked. I am shook by that. I can't even lie. Like Animatic, it seems like exact type of character that would go like, "Oh hey, you're back. You didn't listen to me. Screw off." But like you weren't, like Animatic has the mildest amount of reasoning. The mildest amount of reasoning for stuff. Like they don't want to revise exclamation. Why? Yeah, because exclamation mark, hurt them. Like didn't hurt them, but fought back, right? Like there is a mild amount of reasoning when they screech someone. At least there is some mild amount of reasoning to the fact that they were being annoying. Right? Like, they don't just screech somebody for existing. They screech someone for being annoying. That. And when they got everybody in the challenge, there is the mild amount of reasoning that it was a challenge. You know, like there's something there. It's not like all loco crazy animatic. Like it is loco crazy animatic, but it's not like loco crazy animatic. Like it's G. Like there is a little bit of reasoning to animatic's decisions, which I find pretty interesting. I honestly really do find it interesting. But yeah, then the teams are up for elimination. because that team ended up. Wait, what happened? Oh yeah, the sunflower seed ended up, falling off the cliff. Oh wait, yeah, the other one was growing. So who else is up for elimination? It ends up being um yeah, Oddly Fool. So who would I predict to get eliminated? Yeah, I don't know. Bioluminescent gives me vibes of character will get eliminated. But again, this is about to save. Who's a character that didn't show up in this episode nearly at all? Don't pretty much didn't show up in this episode. Hives didn't do much in this episode, but Bioluminescent was evil in this episode. Mushroom also didn't do much either. So those characters are a little bit of a danger. I mean, they all show up. I would say Don't has the interesting with the cat. Mushroom has the interesting with the dark magic. So maybe say Hives is the one that's most at risk in this episode, alongside Bioluminescent. Depending how many people would want to vote Bioluminescent to save them, even though they sabotage your team, which I don't really know. On the other team, the Grant Swag, ooh, that team didn't do a lot because they were just chilling. That's the thing. I say Sippable's in danger. I would say Sippable's in danger, and Bush and Apol's kind of in danger. Which, by the way, they're one character, not two. I say those are in danger mostly because they're the ones that sort of just went along with it and kind of didn't do anything. Maybe Bush and Apollo. Juice Puffles. Like, you see, that team was just kind of standing there. They didn't do too much. No patch should have to be safe. I'm going to say Sippable. I'm going to go with Hives and Sippable for the elimination, but I don't 100% know. I'm going to be honest. I don't really know. It could be anything. By the way, so many voice actors on the show. Look at how many people. I mean, it's a cast of gigantic proportions. So yeah, like one guy, like the creator of the show voices like 20 of the characters. That's like not even 50% of the cast. Like, I also like how they credit the freaking soft. What is it called? Sam. They credit for like eject. Sam soft or automatic mouth. Good. That we need. Cats is credited for cat. Bro, why are we doing that? I don't know, but it's fun. Um, and yeah, I think that's all I really got to say about it. Animatic Battle 4A. Animatic Battle 4A. It's time to watch it. It's titled Thank You for the Barbecue. Oh no. um, it has already 120,000 views as we're watching this, so it made the rounds. All right, it's made the rounds. So let's watch it. Let's talk about it. And then we'll come back with our Animated Battle 4A review. Or, well, it's not really a review, because it's more like a live discussion. It's been a long time since an episode. I wouldn't say it's a necessarily big deal episode, because, like, it's, it's still episode 4, and it's A as well. But how long it's been since Animated Battle 3 does sort of put some added on stakes to it. Let's go. So I have just finished watching Animatic Battle 4A. All right. Um, and there is a lot to say about it. Of course, spoiler alert for Animatic Battle. If you're here, you probably know about it, but you said, in case you are worried about it, it's currently playing on screen. Click off immediately if you don't want to get spoiled. But anyways, now discussing the episode, it is a interesting one because it's just we've returned a little bit to this slow pacing, like, okay, maybe not returned, right? But the pacing of this episode feels like it is so much slower than the average episode. That's why we've split up into 4A, right? Because until this challenge begins, we end up spending like 14. Wait, how long until the challenge even starts itself? I don't even know. It's like absolutely ages. It's like 50. Yeah, it's 17 minutes. 17 minutes until the challenge starts. That is crazy, no? because that's how long it takes for challenge to start. In Animatic Battle 1, which is a 40-minute, and there they have to introduce every single character. Here we don't have to do that, but we're just generally taking everything slow. So I understand why this episode would take 1 decade. Since it is just like it's just being it just pesos like it just there's just more fluff to it in a way, which means that it is just gonna be a larger episode. I don't know if 4B is gonna be this length. I'd guess not really. I'd probably guess that 4B might be like a 15-minute ish episode. Maybe. I'd guess that would be the length of it because I don't think there's that much to, but I mean maybe the rating of the performances might take a while. I don't really know. It depends. So that's the situation. I understand why this would take a long time because it is a lot. In terms of quality, there is certain shots that absolutely feel like they are a higher quality as well. Animation quality. It's it's the virtue of the object show that is popular and wants to improve itself. Something that gets complicated, like just that initial shot. Like at the beginning and the way it transitions into the notepad, that's just a high effort, high production shot. That entire landscape, there's so many complicated camera angles going on there, right? There's so many interesting things going on there that yeah, it's just this type of thing. Um but even before the elimination start, there's a significant amount of time spent to just seeing the characters frolic a little bit. To be honest, just seeing the characters hang out, we get to see P absolutely diss everybody because P just hates everything, right? Then we get to see that the recovery machine is currently not working, right? So the recovery machine is well, it is recovering people, but it's recovering people kind of weird. So, for example, it recovered Gapple, it made it a rainbow apple, a rapple, as somebody might say, a rapple. Um, it recovered the cheat, no, not Cheetah. What did Nacho? I keep calling Nacho Cheeto. I'm so sorry. That is so sad. I don't know why I say that. It recovered Nacho as like a guacamole Nacho. It recovered what else did it recover? It recovered somebody else kind of wrong, but in general, it's yeah, life is tough. Like yeah, cause I don't remember. Wait, what happened? The machine got like beat up for the last challenge of Ingana. Or was it? Because we were trying to recover something. Oh no, it got beat up when recovering exclamation mark. Yeah. When recovering, like creating that exclamation mark, it kind of just demolished that microwave fella. I think, also is why they got recovered. I'm guessing. So yeah, they got recovered as sort of purple now, which yeah is a thing. We then get the intro. Interesting enough, the intro actually appears before Animatic even appears. Animatic only goes on to appear a few minutes later. So I feel like the intro's placement was even though it was fine, but yeah, I was expecting this place a little bit later. Animatic. Animatic. What do I have to say about Animatic in this episode? Animatic's pretty good. Kind of. We're doing like the funny, just Animatic being super forward type character who's just gonna go along with random stuff that they decide themselves. So like a sip in a cup wants to, ask to recover, but they're too shy. And if you even like the thing about it is that if you even hesitate for a little bit, for like a minute, with Animatic, you are cooked because Animatic will just go off. Like Animatic has got the attention span of a potato, right? Like you gotta just state your claim, but Animatic is just gonna boom and then proceeds to just drive them, which yeah, I can't. It's funny, okay? It's funny. Make some cool shots again. There's the freaking first person view. Like there's a lot of fun gags there as well. Landscape dies. Mushroom, Mushroom gets eliminated actually, which is interesting here from the first challenge. I wasn't expecting it, but I think that's just because I like Mushroom personally. That Mushroom is the type of mysterious, more stoic character where I wanna see what they're on about. right? So I like want to keep them around. For some reason, people don't actually agree with that. I feel like I don't know if this is an uncommon opinion, right? But I feel like for these types of characters, I want to see them get to do their thing. Like the mushroom is very clearly doing a thing, right? No, this whole dark magic, only character to practice it, right, and all that stuff. Like, there's clearly a thing going on. Why are we getting rid of them? Because if we get rid of them, we're just preemptively like destroying that, right? We're just not allowing the thing to happen. When there's so many characters that aren't even doing anything relevant, right? I don't know. It just feels like we're removing a potential interesting plot arc for that, and I don't know. I don't know why we'd eliminate a character like Mushroom. To be honest, it's a little bit disappointing, but. Eventually, yeah, they do in fact get eliminated. Is there actually a tomato plush? There's no, right? They're not. I don't. Is there? I know they made an exclamation mark plush, which I don't think you can still buy. But I think that, by the way, having an exclamation mark plush, I think just points out how popular that episode 2 got. Just how popular, just the first 3 episodes get. Exclamation mark got a lot of notoriety in episode 2 and 3. Right? I think it just points out just how popular they got that we got an exclamation mark plush. Like, absolutely, GG on making such an iconic moment. But yeah, eventually they get out. However, Mushroom successfully managed to dodge it, to use the dark arts to rip the page away and to disappear before Animatic can quite get them. So Animatic doesn't go get them back, as far as I'm aware. They continue to sort of do the thing. I say that the cat fella is relatively, the freaking universe cat is going, okay, they'll be back, we'll talk about it. Which, fair enough. Then we have the other team, which the eliminated contestant on this team is Nacho. Yeah, that's fair. I I'm surprised that's okay. No, to be honest, my prediction for that team was kind of random. This team I didn't really know. I didn't really know what was going on with this team. Nacho ends up getting eliminated with the least both the saves. That's perfectly reasonable, to be honest. Like their main joke was in episode 1, and then in 2 and 3 they sort of relaxed them, so they're not doing much. Juice Box did a bit more, but even then, not that much. That team just didn't do anything. I'll be honest. That team did a very limited amount of stuff. So a lot of them were reasonable candidates for elimination in a channel like that. The only one who I think really wasn't was Acid, to be honest. Like that was the only one which I thought should be pretty clearly out of the contention. Oh yeah, and Notepad obviously, right? And then the other fella. So yeah, I like the joke of them saying S because like the 2 characters with S on them. But yeah, eventually Nacho gets out. I think there's an interesting dichotomy going on to those two, where like a Mushroom is so doesn't want to get out that they literally like not necessarily protest, but like they escape. They proper fight back to their will and then proceed to escape and teleport away. Nacho is I think the one character so far to get eliminated not willingly, but like they don't mind. They were like, "Take me away," right? Well, the other ones were at least like screaming and stuff, like, "No." Lanache was the first one that was chill, but then Mushroom was the first one to escape. So it'll be interesting. I don't think Animatic went after Mushroom, which I am surprised. I'll be honest, because like that felt like the type of thing that would piss him off, Like, we saw how annoyed Animatic was at exclamation marks resistance in the sake of challenge number 2, right? In the sake of the survive challenge, we saw how annoyed they were, I was like, I don't want to revive him. But then here, we have literally dodged an entire elimination Mushroom. But then like didn't we go chase after him? So it was relatively okay. I mean, they did point out that it happened, but they didn't go do too much. I mean, I guess they walked away, but they came back immediately, so there's no way they went to get Mushroom. So like I don't know. That's interesting. I'm pretty surprised that Animatic would have just let them go. At least for now, of course. Maybe they'll look after them later, but I'm surprised that they didn't just immediately stop everything that they're doing. Like Animatic is one of those characters that feels like they're very one track focused. Whatever is happening at that moment is the thing. Like Animatic doesn't feel like the type of character that puts something to the back of the mind, right? So when I see Animatic Battle like being like, oh, I'll get mushroom later, which they don't do that, but that might be what they're doing. I'm shocked by that because like, wait, wait, you have like you have like a anything going on in your brain that's like almost too surprising, you know? Like you just like I just expected to immediately go like, hold on a minute, and then they leave for like 3 days to go get mushroom, and because that's like that's like the newest task is always number one priority type of character. But no surprise, mushroom gets to leave for right now anyways. They get to go, they get to live their life or in on the hunt, with their whole dark magic or whatever. So I don't, well, I guess we'll have to see. um the red sticky hand continues to be relatively stuck there on the ground while Raid is, trying to be a hero or whatever. That thing's still happening. Jedge is now trying to be cool. It's not really working. And then they try to eventually revive Gapo. It ends up as the diamond. So that one ends up off. So, the egg just simply has to ask Animatic. Everybody's so reluctant to ask Animatic because you never know how it's gonna go. But look, with recovery, surprising enough, Animatic has been okay with it, right? Like Animatic hasn't. You haven't. There's nobody which Animatic has like. You ask Animatic to recover someone and you die. Like fully. I mean, technically, okay. Yoshik did die, but they did respawn. Like immediately after. Like, so technically yes, technically no, but I don't think there's anybody where like Animatic just straight up was like no, and you then shut up for even asking, right? Um, which is nice. It's nice to see. Yet again, I think that Animatic has a little bit of reasoning within them. To be honest, like I do see a semblance of logic within their mind. You know, like maybe their mind is kind of crazy, but I do see the logic in a lot of these little decisions. To be honest, like in the way they interact with people, it's like honestly relatively consistent. Even like they don't switch it up that much. Like they don't go, oh, you outdo your request, and then other person asks the same way, and it doesn't do the request. This is one of the issues that somebody like Four had, right, in early BFB, right, where they were just completely like sat out. It was just didn't like depending on who asked, you're just dead, right? Like if Dora asked, it's fine, but somebody else said no. Like, but like in this case, Animatic is relatively fair, to be honest. Like if okay, I understand that Sippy asked and didn't get it, but Sippy didn't get time to ask, right? Like if Sippy asked, I'm sure it would have happened, but it didn't, right? But like when characters add Animatic, it does work. Maybe in a weird way, but it does tend to work. So that's all right. That's all right. I like that at the very least. And then we have the challenge. The challenge. So the challenge is a talent show, apparently. Now the challenge is to do any type of performance or talent, and then when the moon is night, them Animatic and three little creatures of the night, whatever that means, will judge them. So what could this possibly be? I mean, I guess in 4B we are gonna be getting to properly test what I'm saying. Is Animatic gonna be fair with the scoring? That's the question, because I think Animatic is relatively fair and consistent with the requests, right? And I think Animatic, there's a little bit of logic in their brain. We're gonna need to discover that in 4B. Is Animatic gonna score things even remotely fairly? My prediction is no, but I'm hoping that it is yes. I think it'd be cool if Animatic actually had some logic to them. You know, because Animatic being cuckoo crazy is fun. It's funny, But I think it's more interesting if they're cuckoo crazy while also not being cuckoo crazy at the same time, and if they're both. And also, I don't know who the other guest scout judges are gonna be. It'd be funny if one of them was Mushroom, but I don't think that's gonna be what it is. But I guess I don't know. We'll have to see what the creature of the night is. Um, until later, it could be like Animatic's friend animation and writing. That's not a thing. Imagine. No, there's no way. Yes, Animatic's big new friend storyboard. Now, so then they're doing a bunch of some. They try to do some tactics for a little bit. So the team with ID. Okay, so they decide to shape clay brick. All right. And you can shapeshift Claybook into the shape of a humanoid, and the humanoid can dance, right? That's a pretty creative idea, especially because you do have the goop fella, so you can make two dancers there, and then you can make sort of a dance routine. I like what that team's trying to do. I don't know if it's gonna work. I mean, it does look weird, but yet again, it's sort of the question: what would Animatic like? You know, because like it's not a very regular talent show. It's like what would Animatic enjoy? And I feel like that type of weird routine, Animatic could enjoy it. To be honest, so maybe I'd see the vision with that team in what they are doing. Then we see that Hives has a crazy knife ability. You know, they managed to shapeshift, like demolish Tomato into a pea, which surprises everybody. Um, I don't know. I'm worried about that team because I don't know how the hell they're gonna do that heading into the talent. Like how do you do that? You know, like are you just gonna do that on command? Like who are you gonna do that to? You know, so I'm a bit worried about that team because it is a cool thing. And Animatic, you know, Animatic, big fan of murder, would probably enjoy it, but it just needs to be done on command, and I don't know if they can do it on command. So I'm a bit worried about that heading into the voting part here, there, and four. Being a bit worried if they're gonna pull that off in the elimination. Then it seems that the team with Printer is gonna be eventually doing the little yummy gummy gum dance, which is everybody's favorite dance of all time. Apparently, everybody really enjoys it. I mean, the joke with that one's very obvious. It's like so clearly an underwhelming little dance, but then everybody does it. But hey, when everybody does it in unison, okay, I kind of a lie. When Printer does it themselves, or when Bowling Ball proceeds to do it later, um, it looks hilariously bad. But when they are all doing it in unison, it's low key okay. Like it's not that bad. Like it looks decent. It looks like they're all coming together. It looks like a happy, joyous thing. And Animatic is kind of a fan of joy and fun and whimsy as well. So maybe there's something that could be worked on there. It's sort of the question, right? Of like, how does Animatic like joy and whimsy? Like, does Animatic like joy and whimsy that is entirely self-produced? Is it like a facade, right? I don't know. Animatic is just extremely weird like that, so it's just kind of difficult to really guess what Animatic is ever gonna think of something that's fun, because Animatic can consider it cool, like yeah, I love fun, or you consider it bad, like oh, I hate fun. I am just doing it for the points, or whatever. Um, so yeah, that team. Look, if they do all that dance in unison, and maybe Animatic might even join along, try it out. I think it could work. So I have some faith on that team. Despite how dumb that doing a yummy gummy gum or whatever is a thing. So the Happy Meatball decide to use Do, because Do is capable of shapeshifting into other characters and doing impressions. Now, in theory, this should be obviously a pretty damn good idea. Um, However, we are, as they pointed out, overworking Do quite a lot, to be honest, which means that I am a little concerned that it's all going to go great up until you're put in the spot, and then there's going to be a crack, right? I'm worried what's going to happen, for example, right, is that we have Do there, and then we're gonna do one of them, right? And then Animatic's gonna go like, do me, right? And then Do is gonna do Animatic, but since Do has this whole honesty thing, right? It's gonna be like, yeah, I'm a host and I suck, and then Animatic is gonna go like, and absolutely murder everything. That's what I'm worried is gonna happen with that team, because in theory they have a very good little plan. However, this whole honest to God stuff definitely is concerning, because if dude dares to do an impression of Animatic, and especially if they do like a request, like, hey, I can do anybody, look, just ask, and then they say Animatic, I think that's GG. Like, they cannot try to do an impression of Animatic, because if they try to do an impression of Animatic, we're cooked. And maybe dude is just gonna eventually get tired out, and the impression just isn't gonna work anyways, right? Because they keep asking dude to do various things. So by the way, these sentences are so confusing. Asking do to do. Like, bro, I'm sorry. That's what you get for naming your characters like that. Um, Not gonna lie. Uh, to be honest, yeah, that team definitely has me worried, because it's the team that theoretically does have like the genuinely coolest thing. However, it's not what I'm thinking is gonna work. You know, it's that type of thing. Usually, that type of stuff doesn't work. So I'm guessing that team is currently not going to look so good into heading into the pitching phase. So probably going to get up for elimination. And then I'm worried about the team there with like Hives. I'm worried about the Hives team, because like it's a cool little thing. However, I don't think they're going to be able to execute it on stage. I think they're going to flop, and the team there with Do is going to flop, the impressions. So I think those two teams are going to flop, and then the dance, since it's so easy to execute, I think that they're going to be able to do it together and spread joy all across the world, right? And then the whole team with the dancers as well, you know, the weird goopy dancers, I think that one is also going to be capable of working, even though we did see them get absolutely destroyed by the fella playing the guitar, Shu. No, not Shu. Coffee. Yeah, Coffee absolutely destroyed them, but they should be able to come back, no problem. So, yeah. Basically, dancing is the way to go. Just do a goofy little dance, and Animatic is gonna vote for you. That's my prediction, all right? Because it just seems like it's gonna work better than any of the other methods, all right? And then very suddenly, there's no like proper transition into it. We then have the ending of the Animatic Battle. We do have some other teams, of course, still need to find their methods. So we need to think about that. I mean, like, out of those that we saw, of course, that's the two I would currently put up for elimination. However, yeah, there's a lot of abrupt endings. We got Bob On back, you know, some motivation. For once in life, Bowling Ball managed to not fail tremendously at whatever task they are trying to do. So good job. However, yeah, we're gonna need to see what Bomb is gonna be able to invent here. But there's some stuff in coming. I'm interested in what the state of 4B is, because if 4B is coming out this month, let's say it's very late this month, let's say it's like 29th or something, that still means that the episode's got to be like mostly done. It's got to be like 2 scenes left or something. But if there was so little left in the episode, yeah, this split is weird, because if there was so little left in the episode to where you could have just combined 4A and 4B and just made episode 4, then like surely at that point you just do it. No, I don't know, that's weird. I don't know, I just find that weird to me, because isn't it like, if you were gonna release A and B so close together, why not just combine them and make episode 4 release later? Because then here we're having this situation where I think people might be disappointed at an episode like this, because it's like, oh, we wait a year and we're getting an A. We're getting like 30% of a challenge done. Right? And then it's like, well, okay, it's not so there's maybe a little bit of backlash. I mean, it depends. I don't know how animatic battle community is, but I could definitely see something like that brewing as a form of backlash because it's sort of risky, right? I would have probably combined A and B if B's coming out so soon, to be honest, right? I mean, it's not like this show has been afraid of doing a long little episode. I mean, episode one's 42 minutes, so like I don't see why not combine them, to be honest. There's gotta be a better reason, but considering how abrupt they cut it, the episode wasn't meant to be split up. Now it's getting sort of randomly split up. It's kind of weird. I wouldn't have split them up personally if it's actually coming out later this month, because it's too soon. At that point, just wait and publish them both together, and then you have a grander episode for a comeback. Surely that's like a way better thing to do. I I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. However, yeah, I think that also, however, I would not suggest criticizing this episode too much because the thing about this episode is that it's not like the thing about the waiting, right? Is that the wait for this episode isn't necessarily because this episode is ultra important or grand. So like y'all who are fans of Animatic Battle, all right. I don't know if you're here right now, 2 hours into this video, you probably are. However, like I'm just saying that don't be that disappointed. You know, like at the end of the day, this is an episode 4. We're not that deep into any storyline or story arc or anything, right? And like, if the animation quality had increased significantly, you'd probably not be seeing Animated Battle ever. So I think that this releasing is more than okay. All right, I think this episode is more than fine. Episode 4s are usually not that interesting. Who cares? No, I'm sorry. Who usually cares about episode 4s of object shows? You remember BFB4? What is BFB4? I'm curious. What is BFB4? No, BFB4 is today's very special episode or something. And like, it's like 12 minutes. What even is the episode? The episode is it's like a bunch of forks. Okay, alright. Well, maybe, no, well, I think people like that episode. Well, never mind. Look, that doesn't count. Okay, that doesn't count. It's 4. But the episode they made episode 4 of 4. But like, I'm just saying that these early stretches, it's like 4 to 10, usually are not that interesting, you know? So, like, we gotta say that we're still ultra early into a season here. You know, the fact that we already got plot lines going on with like Mushroom and stuff, right? And Bob, like, and Raid, like that already means that I think we're ahead of the pack. I think Animated Battle is currently ahead of schedule in forming interesting things, because usually I would not expect nearly any realistic proper arcs to have started in a 64-person object show in episode 4. You know, because again, realistically, so far on pace for like what 32 episodes. Like it was not time yet. There's too many people. We're gonna narrow down the cap before starting story arcs. But the fact that we're already starting story arcs with Notepad and with everybody else, right? That means that we're already ahead of the curve. I think this show is doing quite well for itself in terms of writing. The writing on the show has been really good. The other thing that's weird about this episode to me that feels different, like it's been a while, but it doesn't actually feel that different of an episode. The only thing that felt weird was the writing. You know, the only thing that felt weird was especially that opening. Like those opening 8 minutes where they're just sort of doing whatever before Animatic even shows up. Like that doesn't feel like something that should be happening necessary. Not that I don't like that it's happening. It's honestly fine. It just comes off as a little bit weird when it's like not a constant thing, right? Because like episode 2, Animatic shows up immediately. Episode 3, Animatic shows up immediately. Episode 1, Animatic doesn't show up for 15 minutes, but that's because we're introducing all the characters. We don't need to introduce the characters anymore, so why are we having like 10 minutes of them just talking without too much of a purpose, right? It's mostly just gags until the Animatic shows up, right? It's in general, it's the one part that sort of gets me going, okay, I mean, it's cool, but why? You know, it's the only part. I don't mind it. I'm just wondering why it's there. Like there's a type of thing where it's like I don't mind this extra interaction and stuff going on. It's fun, it's funny, but especially when we're eventually having to cut down an episode like this for being too long, I start wondering why that stuff ended up, I don't know, maybe not getting scrapped out of the script a little bit, because like, if we're making episodes too long, you are trimming down, right? That's what I'm thinking here. Um, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm a Nugent, as they say. I am a Nugent. I have watched every episode as of like I don't know 2 hours ago. Like 2 hours ago, I didn't know any of these episodes. Now I know them all. Like it's I am very new to this whole game. So maybe these opinions are incorrect, but I'm gonna spit them all here. I think that they're at least gonna be unique opinions because I don't know what the fandom opinion on this episode is. It could be really good, it could be really bad. I genuinely have no idea. But yeah. And by the way, the vote, there is actually voting, which is nice. I do like when episode A still have a voting. Um, Heads or tails? I'm gonna go with tails. Vote tail. I mean, why is idiot monitor an option? Well, tails. Vote tails. Okay, tails is cooler than heads, anyways, because it's the best Sonic character. It's just better, Like it's just more vibes. There's a cooler design on the tails than on the heads, Because the head's just a head. The tails, you can do cool stuff with that. You can have a challenge. You can have tails. You can have a lot of different things. So I'm personally a tails believer, but yeah, all that good stuff, all that good jazz, as we've been saying. Absolutely. So, have I said what I wanted to say? I think I have, to be honest, with this episode. Okay, so the current state of Animatic Battle, as I've said it, I think the state of Animatic Battle is pretty good. The state of Animatic Battle is quite solid. Considering we're on episode 4 here, I can't judge it too harsh on anything. I like how animatic is. I like the characters. I think they're doing good interactions, right? These episodes, they're not grand, but there is not time for any episode to be grand yet. And this show in general it has a bit of a more jerky vibe to it, because of animatic just being absolutely insane. Um, but even then, BFB eventually picked itself up some seriousness. But here to stick, BFB eventually picked up some seriousness. Teapot eventually picked up some seriousness. II eventually picked up some seriousness. You don't have seriousness at the start because you gotta build it. You gotta build a foundation to then add seriousness onto it. And I don't know if seriousness is even part of the plan for this show, but even if it is, it's not gonna happen yet. So I think so far we're in a good spot, and I'm hoping for the best here. I'm hoping 4B, of course, releases this month because that'll be able to review it and discuss it and see if any of my predictions on the teams that might go up for Elam, like those two, which I'm worried about, we'll have to see it. And yeah, absolutely. That's all I got to say. Reality show challenge. Didn't Lockdown do that? I reviewed that 2 days ago, so it's fresh on my mind now. They did that like set for episode 9 years ago. All right, outro. And there we have it. That is all for today's object catch-up episode. I know it's a relatively long one, considering the fact that Animatic Battle only has 4 episodes. You'd think that it's maybe excessively long, but this is one of the biggest object shows outside of II and BFDI. Possibly as of right now, right? As of this exact moment in time, it might be the biggest one, right? Because I don't know what other thing will get close to it. I mean, because 1 is done, right? So that doesn't count. So like 1 is done, Overload is canceled. So like there would maybe be ITFT is managing pretty decent, but this is bigger. CFMOT, that show, does that even count? I don't like. I'm talking from an objective standpoint. I know CFMOT has a bunch of drama going on with it, but like from an objective viewpoint standpoint, they do get a lot of views. But even then, I think the average views of this is more. That is because this just has less episodes to deal with. I'm curious how many views this is gonna get, especially because it's been so long. But this definitely deserved a 2-hour video, regardless of how it is. Animatic Battle is one of the big ones. It's one of, if not the biggest one. Like, it's a contention for third biggest object show. that third spot in the big three. So this absolutely deserved a full, proper, in-depth dive into all of these videos. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. For Animatic Battle, we're all cut up. Goodbye.